Chasing classic cars almost ended after this happened.
What do you see down there, Wayne?
A big hole in the gas tank. That's not good.
Classic car shows have always been some of the most watched shows among car enthusiasts and aficionados. And why wouldn't they? You get to see some of the most stunning vehicles ever built. Amazing vehicles that are reminiscent of a time when cars were made with love. There are even some who watch and see some of the vehicles from their childhood. One of the biggest draws to these shows is that they usually feature vehicles that are in need of some tender loving care. After years and years of neglect, they start falling apart. So, some passionate mechanics swoop in like automotive superheroes, transforming them from rusty hunks of metal into some of the most beautiful cars that have ever been created. Among the most popular of these shows called Chasing Classic Cars, which premiered on the Motortrend channel in 2008. With a draw towards classic car enthusiasts, this amazing show features Wayne Carini of F40 Motorsport and chronicles his love and passion for classic car restoration. The show looks at classic cars from all eras, focusing on finding and getting cars running and often presenting the option of selling them at a much higher price. One of the best features of this show, according to a number of viewers, is that after the restorations, the cars sometimes do not prove to be financially profitable, giving the show a very authentic vibe. Of course, you can't talk about chasing classic cars without bringing up Carini's childhood friend, Roger Barr. Since Wayne was 10 years old, the two have known each other and shared a love for the industry. It all started in Glastonbury, Connecticut, where Wayne's father and Roger both had automotive garages. The story has it that when Roger was fixing a car that needed bodywork, he'd bring it to Carini's dad. On the other hand, when his dad was fixing a car that needed mechanical work, he'd take it to Roger's shop. It was a solid foundation on which a great relationship would be built. In the years since then, Wayne Carini built his skills and reputation, eventually opening a shop called F40 Motorsports. Here, he would do all sort of bodywork, eventually finding his way to making a name for himself, restoring some of history's most treasured cars. His work eventually caught the attention of producers, which is where his journey on chasing classic cars began in 2008. We'd like to thank Frag Pro Shooter for sponsoring today's video. Frag Pro Shooter is a really fun arena-style shooter game. The rules are easy. Your goal is to destroy the enemy bunkers as quickly as possible, and the fastest player wins. How shall you do it? Collect characters. More than 90 to collect. All have specific rules and power. Create your deck and build your own strategy to destroy the enemy bunkers. They're always coming out with new content and recently just came out with a new character, Red Shadow. There are 3 unique modes to choose from, but our favorite is Payload. In this mode, you want to be the first player to escort your cart to victory. The goal is to reach the center of the map with your cart. You can slow down the enemy cart by destroying the target or stay in defense to make yours go faster. Unlike the typical newbie at this game, only No Crust Nation will get a free chest, 500 coins, and 50 diamonds. Free rewards for you, only thanks to the link in the description, even for those who have already installed Frag. When you're in, join my club, Tuna No Crust, and I'll see you guys there. Now, let's get back into the video. Unlike many other shows that we feature on this channel, Chasing Classic Cars is still on the air. They have not flopped and still enjoy a great deal of success. And by great deal, we mean that it is the longest running car show on the air next to Wheeler Dealers. You can find the show in 42 countries around the world, but don't be fooled. This wasn't always the case. There existed a few years where the future of the show was in quite a bit of jeopardy. For a while, there was even question as to if the show should have continued. What were the reasons for this? Well, let's get into it.
Big first impression.
Al Gore is like flipping in his grave right now. Oh, he's not dead yet.
But before we do, make sure to hit subscribe for more crusty content and like this video to support the channel. You won't want to miss the end where we give you a chance to win a new iPhone 12 Pro. Unlike most of the other shows, it took about 8 years before the show gained popularity. This comes as a huge surprise for many because the show actually has a very large and dedicated fan base. From the way it is now, someone would probably think that the show had very high ratings from the beginning. However, that's just not the case. The show just didn't connect with audiences like the producers thought it would. Of course, when a new show premieres, it sometimes takes a couple of seasons to catch on. The directors, producers, writers, and hosts all have to take the time to find their groove. We've all seen it. Think back to a show that you really enjoy and then go back and watch some of the original episodes. They have a certain level of cringe, don't they? Don't worry though, it's the way nearly every show that has ever been on television started off. However, there is a major difference here. Chasing classic cars took around 8 years before it was able to develop a decent following. Until then, viewership was pretty low, and ratings were not all that spectacular. There were plenty of talks about canceling the show. However, producers knew that there was something about this show that viewers would eventually come to appreciate. They weren't wrong either. Now, 16 seasons later, the show is going stronger than ever. The show took a toll on F40 Motorsports and on Wayne Carini. Anyone that watches Chasing Classic Cars will know that Wayne Carini is all about showing the real parts of his business. He isn't into the gig for the drama or the fame. Rather, he is all about sharing his passion with the world. But there is something about being on television that viewers typically don't think about. Yes, it seems cool, however, it's like a job in itself. When you already have a business to run and then you add a camera crew and production team into the mix, it's like adding an entire second job. Having spent time establishing his shop for a number of years, Wayne Carini was in his groove with his business. It was incredibly hard work managing a staff, payroll, and everything else. Now, as he worked, he had to contend with cameras all over the place. Directors would bark orders, cameras would follow suit, and Carini would be left trying to keep things running in the meantime. As we talked about earlier, the ratings for the show took quite a while to pick up. During these early years, the stress of having his own business while trying to please the network bigwigs started to tear away at him. Were the incredibly long hours he was putting into it worth the low viewership? Even though he wanted to show people his passion for car restoration, who is he reaching? These types of questions can really eat at a person when they don't really see the fruits of their labor. It's obvious now though, the story changed quite a bit. After giving it some time, 8 years, the hard work finally paid off. Before he knew it, he was the star of one of the most popular car shows on television. Roger Barr had to leave the show. One of the most well-loved people on the show was the legendary mechanic Roger Barr. He was inspirational not only because he worked incredibly hard, but because he had a long history with Wayne. However, something was a little different about season 15. Fans noticed that Barr was gone. No explanation or reason, he was just gone. During his time on the show, Roger Barr had actually injured himself pretty badly and required a decent amount of hospitalization. After his recovery, he wasn't physically able to return to the show. It left fans stunned not just because they found out about the injury, but they felt like he was simply written off. It took multiple inquiries from fans before the issue was ever addressed, which seemed quite suspicious. However, that was just the beginning. There was a lot more revealed about Roger Barr and his situation. First of these was the fact that Barr was never paid for his time on the show. It wasn't revealed whether this was because Roger actually wanted it that way or if the network simply decided to use him for his services. But it was his lack of pay which led him to yet another issue. His medical treatment from his injury was way too expensive for him to cover. Luckily, he had grown to become a fan favorite. In order to get his hospital expenses covered, some of his friends started a GoFundMe account to raise money for his hospital bills. Whether or not a person agrees or disagrees with how the network handled his lack of pay, there was definitely something wrong about the way they didn't help with his medical treatment. Roger Barr was pretty much left on his own to handle everything. In the end, though, the show pressed forward. It earned acclaim and praise from a number of different places. Cars are still being built and restored for a number of different clients and sold for incredible prices. Hopefully, the network will take time to examine where they have come from in this venture and try to correct some of the past mistakes that were made. Complacency is always the enemy of growth. Thank you for watching till the end of this video. As promised, we are going to tell you how you can enter to win a free iPhone 12 Pro. So to enter, just make sure you're subscribed, give this video a thumbs up, and comment "No crust" in the comments section below. And that's it. Let us know what you thought of today's video in the comments below. Also, make sure to hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, and give this video a like. We'll see you next time.